Hello, everybody. Well, I'm coming to you from the bedroom today because I want to talk about when dreams really do come true. And I am actually talking about dreams when you sleep. Have you ever had a dream to come true? Be it good, bad, whatever. I've actually had several in my lifetime. And actually, it really didn't start until 1987. And every dream, well, basically every dream that I've had to come true has to do with death, which, excuse me, kind of lets me know that there really is a time and a way for people to die. Um, you usually think of accidental deaths and all this, and I guess some of that's true, but the first dream I want to tell you about I had in 1987 was about my cousin Randy and his fiancee Mona. Um, I had a dream. I'd gone to bed on a Wednesday night, and actually I had seen him. I had seen him that day before he was on his way to work, and I actually passed him. He was getting gas. That's the last time I ever saw him. But that night, on a Wednesday night, um, when I went to bed, I had a dream that I was in his car, and him and Ramona were in the front, and I was in the back, but I couldn't see them. I couldn't see anything but darkness and a road, and I could tell that we were going real, real, real fast down that road, and I kept telling him to slow down. I kept saying, slow down, you're going to get us killed. I kept saying that. And so in my dream, the car hit a telephone pole, and it went way up the pole, and I'm still in the back seat, and I'm watching it go up the pole, and then I'm looking out the side window, and I see the ground way down here, and the car just keeps coming down, and right before it hit the ground, uh, I was in my aunts and uncle's house, and everybody was crying, and I knew that Randy was dead, and I kept saying, well, what about the girl? What about the girl? I kept saying that, what about the girl? And they never would tell me anything. So as it turned out, when I woke up, I was really, really scared after that dream. And I remember I told my mom and my Aunt Sally about that dream that day. And my Aunt Sally looked at me and she was like, you and your dreams. And Mom looked at me and said, you'd feel mighty funny now if something like that really happened, wouldn't you? Because there were so many more details to it than what I'm giving you for the interest of time. But anyway, so on Saturday night, it happened. And it happened basically like it did in my dream, except instead of hitting a telephone pole, they hit a tree. And according to the police report, the car was going at a high rate of speed, and it hit the tree so hard it went 10 feet up the tree before coming down. And it killed the tree, too. Randy was killed instantly. And maybe the reason in my dream why they didn't tell me about the girl that, I didn't know in the dream whether she lived or died is because she lived like 20-some days after Randy died. She was in ICU, and she lived for almost 3 weeks, I think, before she died. And that was the very first dream that I had to come true. So this goes to show, really, that I guess that was fate. That was pretty much meant to happen. Why would I dream about it if it wasn't written in the stars, so to speak? Another dream that I had was my Uncle James, and this was back a few years ago when he died. And I had this dream one night that I was at his house, the house that they used to live in. They had since moved in reality, but the house that he had lived in for most of my life out there anyway. I dreamed that I was in that house, and in my dream I was walking to that house, and I'm thinking to myself, well, James and Patty have moved, why am I here? And I would walk through the house, and I remember everything so vividly I in that house, and I was looking around, I was seeing things, and I was like, God, I hadn't seen this in a long time. Anyway, so I'm walking through the house, and I'm wondering what I'm doing there. Well, I see my Uncle James coming down the steps from upstairs, and James never went upstairs in that house unless he was going up there to work on something. So that was odd in my dream, and I remember looking at him, and he had on a suit and tie. And James never wore a suit and tie either. But anyway, James was coming down the steps in a suit and tie, and he was, straightening up his tie. And I said, well, James, look at you. I said, all dressed up in a suit and tie. I said, where are you going? And he just straightened his tie up and he smiled. He said, I got that funeral. And that's when I woke up. And it was the next day that I was told that James was in the hospital, and he never came out of the hospital. He died. Excuse me. Several days later. And it was unexpected. It was unexpected. So, and then another death that I dreamed about was right after my husband died. I dreamed that I was at this big family reunion, and everybody was there. But I knew that my husband had just died, and so I'm looking around at everybody, and I see this doorway. This was the house I grew up in this dream, and I see the doorway that goes out of the living room. But all I could see was just like clear blue space outside that doorway. There was no door, just a doorway. And everybody was talking and having fun, and I started walking over to the door because I was going to look through that door and see what was out there. And over from this corner, my husband floated from this corner and came towards me, and I was so happy, and I went running up to him, and I said, I knew you would be here, honey. I knew you would. And so he started talking to me, but yet he was just looking at me. But he wasn't smiling, but he didn't look sad. And he was talking to me, but his mouth wasn't moving. But I could, it was like telepathy. I could understand everything he was saying. And he was telling me, don't go to the door. Don't go to the door. And I kept saying, why? What's out there? He said, it's not your turn to go through the door. I said, through the door? I said, is somebody here going to go through the door? And he was like, yes. And so I'm looking around. Well, it's all my family because it's a family reunion. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I have a family member that's going to go through that door, and that door means death. And I said, well, who is it? And he couldn't tell me. And I begged him, please tell me. I said, is it my daddy? And no, it was not my daddy. And so, because, no, before I asked him if it was my daddy, he said, he gave me a name, and I could hear it, D. And then it was my fault. I said, Daddy? Is it my daddy? No. And he said it again, but it was like, duh, and then it was like he was talking underwater. So I knew it started with a D. I said, it's not Dad. I named off my sister and my brothers, Debbie, Donnie, Danny. It was none of them, I named off my cousins, Donna, Diane, Denise, I started naming everybody off. No, it was none of them. So when I woke up, I was talking to Joe the next day, and I told him about the dream. And I said, I think I named everybody whose name starts with a D. And so Joey was trying to help me name some of them, and we never could think of any more people. But anyway, the next day, Mom called me and told me that, she said, I just thought I'd let you know that your Uncle Dover died last night. That was the D. So I dreamed about his death. But before my husband died, I guess maybe not quite a month before he died, he had come home from work one day, and I was getting ready to go to the store. And I told him, I said, before I go, I said, I need to go back and lay down for a minute. I just need to lay down. He asked me if I was okay. I said, yeah, I just feel real tired. I just feel like I need to lay down for a few minutes. So I came back here to the bedroom, and I laid down on the bed, and The Price is Right was on. And I remember laying here on the bed, and I must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes, I was looking up at the ceiling. But I started floating. It was like I started floating up to the ceiling, and I thought, oh my God. I felt tired. I laid down. Did I die? And all this I'm thinking about, I said, did I die? Have I died? And this is my body, my spirit leaving my body? And I kept getting closer and closer to the ceiling, and I thought, well, how am I going to get through the roof? How am I going to get out of here? So when I got up to the roof, I just went right through the roof. And when I went through the roof, I could see nothing but stars, just like a galaxy. It was stars. And I started floating upwards. And I was turning around, and I would look down this way, and I could see everything getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I just kept traveling up, up, up. And I thought to myself, I did die. I died, and I've left my body. But it was such a peaceful feeling, and it was just so serene that I didn't mind dying. And then all of a sudden I jarred myself awake. And I thought, well, and I hadn't been laying down but about 10 minutes according to the clock. And I felt so refreshed, so I got up. And I thought, well, that was weird. And it was a couple weeks after that my husband died. And my husband died back here in the bedroom, in the bed. So maybe that was a dream telling me that he was going to die, because his death was quite unexpected as well, even though he had been sick. But anyway, those are some of the dreams that I've had. You know, and I've had dreams too about things that's going to happen at work that come true. You know, and just little dreams like that. But these are the big dreams that I have dreamed about that have come true. So whenever I have such dreams, it makes me a little on edge sometimes when I sit and think about them. But you know, not every dream that I have is going to come true. My mom told me that one time. She said, just because it happened one time don't mean it's going to happen again. But still, it does, you know, give me something to think about when that happens. So if you've ever had a dream to come true, I do is that somebody knocking? No, I don't think so. If it is, they can knock. Do a video, or just leave me comments and let me know about your dreams that have come true. And one more dream that I had to come true, and it didn't have anything to do with death, was when I was married in Virginia to my ex-husband, and he worked for the railroad. And they had a big layoff. You know, of course, they had layoffs all the time on part of the railroad where he worked at. He worked on the tie gang. So he had just been called back to work. And I got the kids off to school that morning. He was gone to work. I got the kids off to school, and I laid down on the couch to take a nap. And I had this dream that I was sitting there alone, and he came walking through the door. And I said, well, you're home. I said, what happened? And he said, they cut me off for medical reasons. And that's when I woke up. That's when my mom said, just because you had one dream come true don't mean all of them's going to come true. Because this was right after a dream about Randy and Mona. So at lunchtime that day, I was sitting there watching all my children and eating lunch, and I was there by myself. And next thing you know, he comes walking in the door. And I just sat there and I looked at him. I said, what's wrong? And he said he had gotten dizzy and almost passed out at work, and his blood pressure was real high, and they cut him off and wanted him to see a doctor and get his blood pressure under control before he could come back to work. And I dreamed that. Anyway, so tell me about some of your dreams, and until next time, bye-bye.